blues has been a big part of my life. It gives me a chance to play with other people and have a lot of fun. And that's why I'm having a blues camp. That's not actually a blues song. But blues has been a huge part of my life. Ever since I discovered that the harp is an incredible blues instrument. Who would have thought? Well, it makes a lot of sense, actually, because the harp in some ways is kind of like a cross between a piano and a guitar. So you've got certainly, more than 6 strings here, like you do on a guitar, but you also have the capability of bending notes like you do on a guitar, and creating a lot of other different sounds. And one of the great things about the blues is that it connects you to so many other musicians. And if you've ever played the harp and someone has said, hey, you want to play together? Let's jam. And you're just like, oh, well, I don't know what to do. Do you play the Handel harp concerto? I mean, you don't necessarily know what to say. It is so great to have something like the blues so that you can play with other musicians. And that is just one of the reasons why I created the Blues Jam Harp Camp, a free intro to what we're doing this summer at Hip Harp Academy, which is all about improv and all about the power of pattern to give you a sense of freedom. And the blues has an incredible, so many different patterns on many different levels. But one of the things that is so powerful for harpists is that you can, I'm going to just set this up, you can actually use the Dorian mode, which is beloved of many people who do therapeutic harp. You can set up your harp in a Dorian mode. Don't worry, I show you how to do that. And you can play a very, very simple blues with just 3 chords that can also actually end up being a very sort of therapeutic harp type of pattern. So there are all these wonderful patterns. And this pattern right here that sounds almost, like ethereal can also become a very bluesy pattern. And if you move it around, I'm just taking the same pattern, and I'm moving it around to 3 different chords to give me a sense of blues. And this is one of the simplest ways to start playing blues. What we do in the Blues Jam Harp Camp is actually work on something that is so fun, which is how to play a melody. What are the patterns of the melody? So there's so much different patterning that you can learn with the blues. One is the pattern of the harmony, the 12-bar blues of the 12 bars of the 12-bar blues. That's a pattern that you can learn. But there's something else that's even more fun. And the thing that's more fun is when you are playing along with other people and you have these patterns. And so in the Blues Jam Harp Camp, what I teach you is these melodic patterns, and what I give you is a downloadable band that you can play along with. So you really get that feeling of playing with others. And I'm just going to go through this these patterns now, because a lot of times when people sit down to improvise, they're like, well, what do I improvise on? Like, what notes do I start with? How do I play? Like, I'm not going to play the wrong notes. And let me tell you something, there are no wrong notes. I mean, of course, there are no wrong notes in general, but of course, we always feel like I didn't like, that's not a wrong note, but I didn't like it. The first thing that I teach you in this blues camp is how to create a pentatonic scale. That pentatonic scale, you've probably heard of it before. You can do all kinds of improv on it. It's great for the blues. It's 5 notes, thus pentatonic, like pentangle or pentagon. Pentatonic, 5 notes. It happens to be D, C, A, G, F. Now, depending on what you've tuned your harp in, it's going to be a different set of notes. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on blues in D. And one of the reasons that we're going to focus on blues in D is because it's going to be really easy to tune your harp so that you can do this. So that if you go to somebody and they say, let's jam on something, and you say, let us jam on blues in D, you will know exactly what to do. You will have a thing to do. So the first thing that you do is you learn these 5 notes. And if you only play those 5 notes, you can play them in any order, you can play them up, you can play them down, you can repeat them, it doesn't matter. It is going to sound great with only these 5 notes. So for example, if I'm playing, that's just these 5 notes. You can play them in all kinds of different ways. You can play them simple. And even if I change the chord underneath it, it doesn't matter. You can still play those same 5 notes. And you can play them in all kinds of different octaves. So right off the bat, right there, you're like, aha, I have these 5 notes. It's just a D, a C, an A, a G, and an F, and I need to worry about nothing else. So you start there. The next thing you can do is you can add a sort of a flavory tone. You can sharp your G, and you get this. And then, so you can play that, and then you go back to the pentatonic scale. So you're just adding little things each time. You're adding things that give a sense of flavor. So you start with this pentatonic scale, then you start sharping that G, and then you start playing around with whether the G is sharp or not sharp by bending it. And then always going back to that pentatonic scale. Then you can add even more, like you can add a 4th above that G, and that gives an even cooler sound. And then you can also, if you want to keep going further, start embellishing. But you're really just adding on to this pentatonic scale. And so you can start simple, you can get more and more complicated, you can always go back to that one scale, but what it does is it gives you a place to start the blues and a place to come back to, and it gives you the power of pattern, and it gives you somebody to play along with. And when you get to do it together, I mean, I'm all about us learning together. So you're not off in your little room learning something until you get it perfect, because that never works. If you sit in your little room or your big room or whatever that is, if you sit in there until you've got it perfect, you are never going to get out of that room. What I want to do is get you out of that room now, get you with other people in the world so that you are playing with others, because that is what music is about. It is to connect us. It is to connect us to the people we play for, the people we play with, the people we want to play with. And so everything that I do is all about playing with others and all about sharing with others. And this harp camp is the same. You'll learn, there's videos, and you'll learn with these little videos, but then you come into the Harpists Who Dare Facebook group and you share there, and you get to see what other people are sharing. And it is not the kind of sharing, the social media sharing, where it's like, hey, look how good I am. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's all about sharing to share, and sharing with others what you've learned, so that we learn as a community together. And so we build the harp community in the world as a community that can play together and play with other people. And that's what this challenge is all about. It's not a challenge. Actually, it was a challenge. It was a riff of the day challenge. And then when we started having it, just now, when we started to want to do it in July, I was like, enough with the challenges. Life is challenging enough. Let's have a camp. So if you join right now, and you can just go to hipharp.com, that's hip as in cool, harp as in the instrument, or there's a link in the post that's with this Facebook Live. You can get right into it. It's already started. You can get into the setup videos. And then starting on Tuesday, we'll actually have sharing and prizes, and you'll get to meet all the other people in the challenge. So I think, but I don't know this for sure, but I think that if you are here on this live stream, and if you chat to me, like if you have a question, I think I'll be able to see it here. I know that I am broadcasting on a bunch of different channels right now, but go ahead and put something in the chat. And by the way, if I didn't already tell you, my name is Deborah Henson-Conant. And I'm a harp player. And I also write musicals. My musical was just in New York City. And I love to write music for other people. And I love to teach other harpists how to expand the vocabulary of the harp. And oh, this is great. So Facebook users saying, I love the prizes and hearing what people get out of it. I know that's one of the great things about being in these sort of challenges or camps. So every time I have a new class, which is about 4 times a year, and when I open up the academy, I always start with one of these challenges or one of these camps, so that everybody can have basically the first lesson, so that you can see what it's going to be like. And then you can come into the academy if, to get the rest of it. And Nicole says, hello, 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 hello. Hey, go ahead and ask me a hard question, because I love difficult questions, and I love to try to answer the question while I'm playing. Hey, Neil, I'm having the greatest time ever. Well, I am, because, thanks for saying that, because in fact, when you can play just for fun, it is incredibly fun. And when you can play with other people, that makes it even more fun. Ooh, I'm having a lot of fun. Oh, Facebook user is saying, I'm worried on this as I don't have levers on my harp. Will it still work? Absolutely. So there is a whole series there's a series of, as always, sorry, it's a little late here right now. You will definitely be able to play the first one, the pentatonic. So for Facebook user, you're saying you don't have any levers on your harp. There's a couple of things that you can do. So one is just stick with the pentatonic scale, but you can make it very, very complex. It depends on how advanced a player you are. If you're a fledgling player, you just want to kind of keep it simple. And you can have a lot of fun doing that. If you are a more advanced player and you still don't have levers, you can do that. If you want to bend, you can actually bend your strings without having any levers. Notice that I'm coming up high on the harp to do that. It's easier to do it high up on the harp. So I encourage you to try it. Will you be able to play every single one of them, the ones that have bends? No, but that doesn't matter, because all that matters is having fun with what you can play. And one of the beautiful things about this camp is that you can have your harp all tuned in C. We're playing in D, but we're playing in D Dorian. And that means that your harp will be tuned in C. So everybody who has a harp should be able to play this. Nicole said, how do you move the tuning levers so fast while you're playing? Well, that's one of the things that you learn in the challenge. One of the big things that you do is to practice. You play and then bend. Now, in normal harp technique, we put the lever up and then we play. Like we go. But when you learn how to bend, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that fast. I've been doing it a long time, so I'm faster. The beauty of the harp, in that it's got this resonance, is that you can bend it and you'll hear that bend. Is it going to sound like this right in the beginning? No. It will take a while for it to sound like that, but you will get the technique, and you don't have to bend it, because you can actually put it up and it'll sound like this. Is actually a really fun thing to do. Notice I'm changing the harmony below it, but I don't change what I'm playing. It's interesting because you can play the same thing over and over again. In fact, repetition is a really big part of blues. And because the harmony is changing, but you can play the same thing, you start to get this groove. It's a very different type of playing. It's really a lot of fun. And Facebook says, how would you do that on a double strung? On a double strung harp. Well, on a double strung harp, I don't know. I don't know how I would do that. But if you come into the challenge, I'm sure you will figure it out. And I'm sure there will be at least a purpose there. So Nicole says, awesome. Neil said, you are such a natural at this. You are a gift. Oh, thank you, Neil. And I'm old and I'm going to bed. Well, I think they're the same age, and I will be going to bed soon too. The biggest thing that I want, and why I wanted to get on here, is because the challenge, the setup is this weekend. So I just want to make sure everybody gets in and gets into the setup, because there's 9 very short videos, but you get to watch them all. And they answer things like, how advanced do I need to be to do this? How do I tune my harp? They answer all these questions so that you can jump into the challenge. I keep saying challenge, but it's a camp, so that you can jump into the sharing part of the camp on Tuesday. So are there any other questions? And if there aren't, I just want to tell you that I have used blues in a lot of different keys. I've used it for a lot of different songs. And a lot of different singing songs, like I'll be your sous chef, baby. I'm gonna slice and dice and chop for you. I'll be your sous chef, baby. I'm gonna clean your counters when I'm through. I'm gonna scour your skillet. I'm gonna polish your pan. If you be my ever-loving red-hot man, I'll be your sous chef, baby. Let's start cooking something now. So I've used blues for things like that. And also a blues, let's see, God. So for okay, let's see, did I use blues for that? We are the macho dogs of Somerville, USA. I think I went into blues on the blowing part of that. I've used blues for that. I'm trying to think of all the different songs that I've used blues for. There's a really great. I've used it. Boy. There's a song I wrote called New Blues, which also uses a lot of blues techniques. And one of the cool things about using blues techniques is that the harp, you can set up the blues scale on the harp so that you don't have to do all that levering, and you get some really, really, really cool sounds. And then there's also some really, really beautiful blues that you learn later on in the class. So there's the camp, and then there's the class. And in the class, there's another blues that you learn that is really just called the Meditative Blues. And it goes like this. This is also a blues, and it's a very gentle blues. All about finding yourself. And you'll notice there's only one lever to move. I'll play it again. That's a G sharp, by the way. It's a beautiful blues. And this is also just like that rambunctious one. This is also a blues with these beautiful harmonies and only one lever change. So the blues is this beautiful, huge vocabulary of all these different, it's like a whole genre. So you'll be just learning the beginning of that. And the beauty of learning the beginning of that is that it starts you off on a journey that can start in a day, because it's very, very simple, and the barrier to entry is very low. And yet you can, once you start playing it, it can take you on a journey for your whole life. So this is where you begin, in this camp that I created for you, with this very simple pentatonic scale. It all starts with that. I hope I see you. Tell every harpist you know about this. I want every one of them in this camp so we can all play together. I hope I see you there. Okay, good night.